Hello everyone, how are you doing? My name is Matheus Carvalho. I'm Innovation and Digital Transformation Manager here at Deloitte, and I want to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is the design of our innovation strategy. From the moment we come up with the diagnosis until it becomes concrete and we capture benefits. So just give you a brief context. I think a fundamental initial point or starting point is the core of the strategic innovation. There is a myth around innovation that it comes from a creativity or inspiration, but it's the opposite. The beauty of this strategy, it comes from a constant and coherent exercise of being disciplined within a business environment. One example that I want to share with you to start off is towards the 90s or 1995, Apple was going through a very difficult moment. This is the cover of Business Week that talks about the fall of an American icon. All the business magazines, they would publish 100 ways for Apple to save itself, maybe sell it to IBM or maybe to bet in education type of computers. In 1997, Apple was just 2 months to go bankrupt. That's when Steve Jobs was invited to go back to the company, to join the company as a CEO, and he came up with a series of measures to make this company turn around. So the first thing was to get some investments with Bill Gates, which is about the regulation. As a result of Apple not being in the market, he started to eliminate portable computers, peripherals, and software development. He outsourced manufacturing, and he started to sell online without any distributors. So Steve Jobs was he was very strategic, and he could see a very clear diagnosis about Apple's problems and its line of products, and all his actions were coordinated to retain this down spiral that the company was in. When asking about the next step, now that the company could avoid going bankrupt, he said that he was going to wait the next window of opportunity. He didn't give this amazing answer. He just said that he was going to wait. And then a few years later, he came up with the iPhone, and then he um, created this market niche. What is behind all that? Which is the core of a good strategy? A USALA professor, he says that the core is going to be the same, to try to find the critical factors of any situation and come up with forms that we can coordinate and focus the actions to work with these factors. And these are keywords. First of all, coordination. There are multiple factors that need to be aligned among them. The second one is focus. All these actions, they have to go towards the same direction. So this strategy has three layers. At its core, you have the diagnosis. In other words, understanding things clearly, externally as well, understanding our competitors, our partners, our distributors, but also internally. When we understand the organizational skills that exist in our company, and this is to talk about strengths and weaknesses, but it goes beyond SWOT analysis. This is a systemic and dynamic understanding of the competencies or skills that we can express in the market so as to leverage things, but also the gaps that we need to mitigate and close to protect ourselves when it comes to our vulnerabilities. In the second layer, we have these policies and guidelines, which is an overall approach to work with the obstacles and that might happen now or maybe in the future. So this is not a photograph of a present moment, but also something that needs to readapt according to uncertainties and happenings as they come up. So if the diagnosis is the moment that we are, or maybe where we want to be, these policy guidelines will be the road that we will tread, and we can change directions, but at least we will have this clear vision of where we are heading to. Oftentimes, strategy is more than the things that we do rather than doing. And last but not least, coherent actions, right? Where the problem is for some people, we are going to have coordinated initiatives with this commitment of resources and actions to ensure the progress of the set policies. And then we have the progress. Oftentimes, people do it different and it's difficult to ensure that. So I will describe each one of them. Let's start with the diagnosis. So let's talk about these innovation levers that every company needs to learn. They are organized in four main groups. So before structuring work teams, it's important for the companies to be able to see what are their main strengths and their main vulnerabilities. So we have in the first group the definition of the vision, where they want to go and where they want to be. So it's the vision, the topics, maybe it's the governance that it uses to manage all these initiatives, the innovation programs. And there are programs that are in multinational companies and small companies as well. So we have to manage the pipeline portfolio. We have to prioritize some actions, also innovation metrics that help us to understand the success of an initiative, but also the maturity of our portfolio and our program as a whole. And also we have to think about the process and the collaboration methods that will be built inside the organization to make these innovations viable so they can go forward and be tested and scale. And then we have a layer of support and financing to finance innovation. So we're going to look at senior leadership as the main leverage point so they can make progress. Especially when we talk about, we have to think about financing programs, talent management, external connections, innovation tools, and this incentive. So we're talking about a set of levers that will be worked more or less depending on the strategy or initiative. So this is key. The second starting point of the diagnosis would be to define the types of innovation that we are going to use as a foundation to talk about the strategy. That can be the innovations that we have worked so far, which is a reflect of the organizational skills, but also for future initiatives of innovation that we want to happen. There are 10 types of innovations that are strategic dialogue based within organizations, and here they are in different categories, the main groups. The first one is the configuration one, and it's connected to the organization management and administration. So profit model, network, structure, process that are used to ensure that the business is managing to give valuable deliverables. The second one is offering, is connected to engineering, the performance of the product, how it works, and what are the features that stand out from the rest. Also the system of product, or the product system, sorry, how they complement each other and how they increase this value offer. And the last one is the experience connected to users. What are the services involved? How you deliver them? How can my brand positions? How does it position itself? And also the customer engagement, how we interact with these clients on our day-to-day work. So here we can see that when we work with these three main groups, there are different ways to make business and be present in the market. So we can be more business model centric, we can be more platform centric when our products communicate between them, and also we have models that are experience centric because customer satisfaction is more important. So now talking about the second layer, let's talk about these policy guidelines. In other words, how can I handle uncertainties in these strategic dialogues? And now we can see different ways to guide them that challenge conventional wisdom. So, how we would act in the past century would have a strategic plan, would implement a risk margin around 10%, and through this present facts, the organization would start working. And then the result is that people would take too long to answer radical changes. And now it's more frequent than ever. So there is a different way to work with this complete context, which is different scenarios approach. So I can no longer be sure that I have all the solutions and I can absorb all the uncertainties that I need to incorporate within our strategy. And then I can design different scenarios that will guide me and serve me as horizons to think about where I'm going to, take into consideration these uncertainties that arise and what comes from the outside world. So we have to define drivers that will guide my industry or my initiatives or the launch of this new product. Every single scenario, according as you build these drivers, will be comprised of a set of standard indicators, and as things happen they will point us if you're going towards scenario A or B and so on. And this produces an organizational answer that allows that set of actions can be deployed according to what I extract from these indicators, and then I can have the best answer and be more competitive in the same strategic approach or definition. So here we have the third layer, which is the innovation strategy map or technological map, and we were working with actions that have to be interconnected, and the only way to do it the only way to do this is with this technological road map. If you don't know where you're heading, any way is possible. That's not our case. So today we are working in this business scenario. You need to know where we're heading to. So this technological roadmap translates that into three layers. How can address different initiatives to ensure this progress in a structured way. So the first layer is this commercial strategic perspective and commercial. What are the milestones we want to have? These are important events that will happen in our journey. This can be deliverables that we will build, but also external milestones. For instance, a certain event that happens, I want to have this product ready. When it comes to this act or law that will be enacted in the future, I have to have this product ready to gain competitive edge. The second one is the perspective of the project development and production. So these are the initiatives that we have to take to be ready when this milestone happens or build it. And last, a third layer, we have this perspective of the technology and research. So for these initiatives to be developed, we have to think about what are the technologies that we must uh, master, what needs to be ready to develop a certain product. And we can map the interdependencies among these different boxes in different levels. And then we can see this strategic map happening. And it's crucial for us to have a toolbox that is rich on our hands, not only on the hands that people that work with innovation, but on the hands of all collaborators. Agile models such as design thinking is good, and then we can discuss this desirability, feasibility, and viability of initiatives, and then we can prioritize the work we do, and also we can better allocate resources to products that have higher possibilities of making success, and also use agile methodology to mitigate risks. And again, we can check with our users, explore our uncertainties, and remove initiatives that don't make sense. And of course, we'll be focusing on the things that we can add value to, the things that we will deliver. Finally, just what is important to measure results more than doing, because we are within this cooperative world, and I know experiment is important, culture is important, it's crucial that our initiatives will translate into results. So there are some guidelines that we should adopt when we talk about metrics. First thing, less is more. Many organizations, they want to have a vast portfolio of metrics to measure everything. So it's important maybe to work with a small number of metrics would make more sense. It's important as well to have different or multiple points of view. It's important for the metrics to complement each other so we can have wider visions. The third one is from leadership to delay. So we have to have some mature initiatives, and also the initiatives that are starting, they must have some metrics implemented to be managed. Maybe to have a metric on a ROI, that initiatives that is just 2 weeks old and there are high level certainty, it's not the case. So as it gets mature, we have to think about financial metrics. The fourth one is measurable, things that are measurable. They have to be measurable. We have to pick metrics that will have the data on our hands before investing in external tools or resources to make this kind of measurement. And realists, because they have to be feasible, possible to promise, targets that have to be possible to promise, that can be met, and metrics that mention only an aspect translate not much when you talk about strategies. And they should connect to ambitions. There are core ambitions, there are surrounding ambitions, and there are transformational ambitions that will be talking about creating new markets, to create new products, create a new market niche, and these metrics, they have to address all these layers. And this, of course, about different dimensions. It has to go through ambition, strategy, finance, pipeline, culture and environment, capabilities, which is the maturity of the organization, and it's important to have a perception ranking. So how our clients, partners, and talents see our organization, and like that we can define these portfolio metrics that will help us to take decisions that are adherent to the strategy that we have built so far. And the ultimate goal is to create impact that matters. So when we talk about business problems, oftentimes we talk about problems that are critical for the organization. And that means problems that have financial consequences, but also we're talking about problems that address health and safety issues, risk exposure, and it's crucial for us to take this discussion to market sizes, because we have to see if you're going to go for initiative A or B. So we have a limited amount of resources. So normally we talk about layers that will be explored as the initiative moves forward towards its best maturity. It's an illusion to think that when you start with initiative, you have 100% precision saying how much money it would make. So it's a development cycle. Initially, we start to talk about TAM, total addressable market. It's a high level approach. So, sorry, total addressable market, yes. So, what is the size of that problem? If it's initiative inside a company as a whole, what is the total or the amount of this, sorry, the size of this problem? If it's a global problem, what is the overall size of this problem, and also the size of the opportunity? Second layer is the SAM, serviceable addressable market. And the idea is that we have an estimate of the problem that is possible to solve with this proposal. It's not that I'm going to do it, but I can. So then let's go to this SOM level, serviceable or obtainable market, that represents the part of the problem that is viable to address. Oftentimes you can tackle the problem completely. That's why sometimes we lose focus. And after we can define the part that we can work with, we are going to start talking about the FMS, fair market share. So what is the part of the problem that we are going to solve? Take into account all the initiatives and the possibility to replicate. And then we start these discussions in the institutions. Oftentimes with bigger companies, we don't have factories in certain locations, so it might be difficult to cross that border. Maybe it's more realistic to look at market share for factory A, B, or C, because they are more realistic for us to operate. So that concludes the third layer of actions, and I think it's important just to give you this overview. We have some principles about how we can think strategic on innovation. First of all, to be explicit when it comes to your ambition, to understand where we want to go, what we aspire to, and then we can organize and then execute. Second, explore tirelessly new and better ways to compete and grow. So expand our ambition horizon and expand our radar that are consistent with a strategy, abandon ideas that don't make sense. Then, three, increase the level of comfort in being uncertain, because uncertainty will be present according to our ambition. If it's an initiative that will impact the entire world, chances are that we will be very uncertain in the beginning. So we have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, uncertain. Four, define expectations that are realistic according to the organizational skills. It's useless to have artificial intelligence that are very developed if you don't know how to use it. Five, work with innovation that uses insights or deep insights and less conventional solutions about the users. Maybe there are problems that don't even know. So let's be more user-centric, understand the context that they are in as a starting point for some conversations. This is crucial to look beyond what the users are reporting. Six, align strategic cooperative strategic to the business strategy. So we talked about coordination, drivers, and focus, and this should reflect in the entire organization. It's pointless to have the strategy on a C level that is not happening in other business areas. And to make the future something tangible, to inspire action. It's fundamental for leaders to communicate clearly what are these aspirations or inspirations, and say that employees and collaborators can relate to that and think about what is the best decision that they will take when picking initiative A or B. So that's it for today. I'd like to thank you very much for the invitation, and I hope this content is good for everyone. And I'm here available. This is my LinkedIn link, my phone number. Feel free to contact me to discuss about strategy, innovation, or about technology. Thank you very much, and I hope I see you soon.